Most Americans can name a few of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, but very few know the stories of the men who signed from Georgia. In this episode, we'll look at the lives of Button Gwinnett, George Walton, and Lyman Hall, three patriots who helped secure American independence and left a lasting mark on their state and nation. The first signer we are going to talk about today is Button Gwinnett, and he was born in 1735 in Downhatherley, Gloucestershire, England, and after pursuing an academic education, he entered the mercantile business in Bristol. Eventually, he immigrated to America, settling first in Charleston, South Carolina, where he continued in commercial pursuits. And in 1765, he moved to Savannah, Georgia, and entered business as a general trader. His involvement in public life soon followed, and in 1769 he was elected to Georgia's Common House of Assembly, and the next year he moved to St. Catherine's Island and became a planter. As tensions with Great Britain increased, Gwinnett joined the Revolutionary movement. He became a delegate to the Georgia Provincial Congress in 1776. This Provincial Congress was an extra-legal representative assembly that replaced royal authority and served as Georgia's revolutionary government during the early stages of the American Revolution, and guided the colony's transition from a British province into an independent state. The first Provincial Congress had met in Savannah in July 1775. When it met again in April 1776, it elected Button Gwinnett, Lyman Hall, and George Walton to represent Georgia in the Continental Congress and sign the Declaration of Independence. After returning to Georgia, he became a member of the state's Constitutional Convention in February 1777. Shortly afterward, he served as acting president and commander-in-chief of Georgia from February to March of that year. Like many of the signers, Gwinnett paid a heavy price for supporting independence. His plantation on the Georgia coast was destroyed by British. Tragically, his life came to an early end with a duel with General Lachlan McIntosh on May 16, 1777. Gwinnett was wounded during the duel and died 3 days later on May 19th near Savannah. He was only about 42 years old. The second signer we are going to talk about today is George Walton. His story is one of remarkable perseverance. He was born in Cumberland County, Virginia, sometime between September 1749 and February 1750. His father died around the time he was born, and by the age of 7, he also lost his mother. So he was raised by his aunt and uncle in a household of 13 children, and Walton began life with very little. At just 15 years old, he was apprenticed as a carpenter, but in 1769 he moved to Savannah, Georgia, where he studied law. He was admitted to the bar in 1774 and quickly established a successful legal practice. As the Revolution approached, Walton became deeply involved in the Patriot cause. In 1775, he served as secretary of Georgia's Provincial Congress and was a member of its Committee of Intelligence. He also served on the Council of Safety, a body created to act as the executive government whenever Georgia's Legislative Assembly was not in session, and later became its president. Throughout the colonies, committees of correspondence, inspection, and safety effectively became shadow governments, taking control away from royal officials as the revolution unfolded. Walton served in Georgia's House of Representatives and was elected as a delegate to the Second Continental Congress in 1776, and returning again in 1777 and 1780. At just 26 years old, George Walton became the youngest signer of the Declaration of Independence, though his service did not end with his signature. During the Revolutionary War, Walton served as the colonel of the 1st Regiment of the Georgia Militia. He was seriously wounded in battle and was captured by the British in December 1778 and remained a prisoner of war until he regained his freedom through a prisoner exchange in October 1779. His wife Dorothy Walton was also captured by the British and held a prisoner for several months. In 1779, Walton became governor of Georgia, and in 1781 he served in the Confederation Congress, the national legislative body under the Articles of Confederation. His public service continued for decades, and in 1783 he served as commissioner to negotiate a treaty with the Cherokee in Tennessee and became Chief Justice of Georgia, which was a position that he held until 1789. And in 1786 he represented Georgia in settling the boundary dispute between Georgia and South Carolina. Walton also served another term as governor in 1789. In the following year, he became the first judge of Georgia's superior courts for the Eastern Judicial Circuit. And in 1795, he was appointed to the United States Senate to fill the vacancy left by James Jackson's resignation, serving until a successor was elected in 1796. He also served as a trustee of Richmond Academy and the University of Georgia, and after moving to Augusta, Walton was once again appointed judge of Georgia's Superior Circuit, serving from 1799 until his death at his home, College Hill, near Augusta, on February 2, 1804. George Walton was also known as a man of faith. He was active in the Anglican Church and is believed to have been a member of St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Walton's faith and patriotism is reflected in a letter he wrote to George Washington that said, "You will permit us most earnestly to recommend to you a steady perseverance in the cause of liberty, and that you will use all possible caution not to say or do anything unworthy of so glorious a cause, to promote frugality, peace, and good order, and in the practice of every social and religious duty, patiently to wait the return of the happy day when we may quietly sit under a vine and fig tree, and no man make us afraid." Last but not least, we are going to talk about Lyman Hall. Lyman Hall was born on April 12, 1724 in Wallingford, Connecticut. He graduated from Yale College in 1747 and initially studied theology and began preaching in 1749. Later, he changed careers and studied medicine and began practicing as a physician. In 1752, Hall moved to Dorchester, South Carolina, and a few years later, he settled in Georgia's Midway District in Liberty County, where he continued practicing medicine while also cultivating rice. Hall became a member of Georgia's Provincial Congress in both 1774 and 1775. At the time, Loyalist sentiment remained strong throughout Georgia, and the colony chose not to send delegates to the First Continental Congress. Hall refused to let that stop him. Using his influence, he persuaded his own parish to send a delegate to the Second Continental Congress, and they chose him. Until Georgia elected Button Gwinnett and George Walton to join him, Hall refused to vote on any matter that required the vote of an entire colony because he believed one man should not speak for Georgia alone. But once the other two delegates arrived, all three proudly signed the Declaration of Independence. Hall served in the Continental Congress from 1775 to 1777. Like the other Georgia signers, Hall suffered greatly during the war. When Savannah fell in 1778 and Sunbury was captured, his property was despoiled. In January 1779, Sunbury was burned by the British, forcing Hall and his family to flee north. They remained away until the British evacuation of Georgia in 1782. After returning to Savannah, Hall resumed practicing medicine. In 1783, he became governor of Georgia, and as governor, Hall encouraged both education and religion. And he also called upon the Georgia legislature to, quote, enact wholesome laws restraining vice and to encourage the introduction of religion and learned clergy to perform divine worship in honor of God and to cultivate the principles of religion and virtue among our citizens. His vision helped pave the way for the founding of the University of Georgia, which became the parent of higher education and civilization in Georgia. Later, Hall served as a judge of the inferior court of Chatham County before moving to Burke County. He died there on October 19, 1790. His gravestone describes him with words that summarize the kind of man he was. It says, "A true Christian and an honest man." Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who enjoys American history. But until then, I'll see you in the next episode.